Welcome to the dark side of innovation. From human radiation experiments to conducting biological and chemical warfare, today we're uncovering the 5 most terrifying government projects that have pushed the boundaries of ethics and fear. Tuskegee Syphilis Study, USA. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study, conducted between 1932 and 1972 by the U.S. Public Health Service, stands as a profound lesson in the importance of ethical integrity in scientific research. Over 4 decades, the study followed the natural progression of untreated syphilis in African American men in Macon County, Alabama, under the guise of offering free healthcare without their informed consent or truthful information about their diagnosis. In 1932, the USPHS, working with the Tuskegee Institute, began a study to record the natural history of syphilis. It was originally called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male, now referred to as the USPHS Untreated Syphilis Study at Tuskegee. The study initially involved 600 black men, 399 with syphilis, and 201 who did not have the disease. Participants' informed consent was not collected. Researchers had told the men that they were being treated for quote-unquote bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. In exchange for taking part in the study, the men received free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. The study continued with little scrutiny until 1972, when the whistleblower, Peter Buxton, exposed the unethical practices to the media. The public outcry that followed led to the end of the experiment, but not before it had lasting impacts on the health and well-being of the participants and their families. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study is more than a historical footnote. It is a sobering reminder of the potential for ethical misconduct in the name of science and progress. It underscores the necessity for transparency, informed consent, and respect for individuals' autonomy in research. Most importantly, it demonstrates the human cost when these principles are abandoned. The legacy of Tuskegee continues to influence medical ethics and research, serving as a stark example of how crucial trust and honesty are in the relationship between science and the community. The Aversion Project, South Africa. The Aversion Project was conducted in South Africa between 1971 and 1989, also known as the apartheid. This psychological study was led by Dr. Aubrey Levin. The objective of the study was to cure soldiers of being homosexuals, or in other words, become heterosexuals. Psychiatrists would conduct the study by utilizing methods including chemical castrations and electric shock therapy. Psychological torture was also used by leaving the victims naked after a procedure in pain. During this time, being homosexual was punishable by law. Psychiatrists and scientists at this time viewed homosexuality as a mental illness or disorder. Their mindset helped allow the study to be conducted. Being a minority also placed the subjects at risk. Subjects were wrongfully abused in the name of science. Consequently, the study only benefited the psychiatrists. The Aversion Project had an impact on how research is conducted and practiced. Modern-day ethics utilize the study and many others to learn informed practices and procedures to protect people. In 1995, a public apology was issued by the South African Medical Association. However, this is all the medical association will do for the victims of this study, and nothing will change until investigation is conducted. The project was abandoned, and patients were left having received only half of the gender reassignment treatments, resulting in patients that are now half female and half male. The psychological impact of the project also resulted in post-traumatic stress, depression, and self-inflicting harm. This research intended to determine the treatment of homosexuals in the military, specifically the South African Defense Force. The study failed to rid the subjects of homosexuality. The men who lived were emotionally and physically traumatized that had permanent effects on the physical and mental health. Unit 731, Japan. During the 1930s and 40s, the Japanese Empire carried out horrific experiments in occupied China, paralleling the brutalities of Nazi Germany. While the Holocaust is widely studied, the Japanese involvement in human experimentation, particularly by Unit 731, is lesser known. Established in Harbin in 1937, Unit 731 began as a public health research facility to benefit Japanese troops, conducting initial experiments on consenting subjects. However, with the war's escalation, ethical standards had lapsed. Under the disguise of research, Unit 731, defying the Geneva Accords, engaged in biological and chemical warfare developments, using prisoners of war as guinea pigs. The unit, led by General Shiro Ishii, exposed captives to deadly pathogens to study disease impacts on the human body. Unit 731 scientists performed viral experiments, injecting diseases into prisoners, exposing humans to plague-carrying fleas, and conducting forced impregnations and vivisections to study venereal disease transmissions and the effects on mothers and fetuses. These inhumane acts were justified as wartime necessities. As Japan neared defeat, the unit hurriedly destroyed evidence, leaving many atrocities unrecorded. After the war, Unit 731's crimes were shrouded in silence until China opened a museum at the site in 1982. The Japanese government only acknowledged these acts in 1988. Notably, the perpetrators were never prosecuted. They resumed normal lives, some with thriving careers, thanks to U.S. immunity in exchange for the research findings, leaving the victims without justice. The story of Unit 731 is a chilling testament to human depravity when unchecked by morality. The lack of accountability for these war crimes highlights a troubling preference for scientific advancement over ethical integrity post-war. The legacy of Unit 731 serves as a grave reminder to uphold human dignity and enforce ethical standards to prevent a repeat of such dark chapters in history. MK-Ultra, USA. During the Cold War, a climate of fear, secrecy, and the race for supremacy led the CIA to launch MK-Ultra, a project shrouded in moral ambiguity. From 1953 to about 1973, the CIA ran covert experiments, often on unsuspecting Americans, to explore the potential of LSD for mind control and psychological torture. It wasn't until a 1975 congressional investigation that these secret activities came to light. MK-Ultra began as a response to reports of brainwashing of American POWs in Korea, intensifying the US government's resolve to master mind-altering techniques. Sidney Gottlieb, leading the project, aimed to manipulate minds to extract information seamlessly. The program marked a shift in LSD research from defense to offense, with the agency imagining scenarios from extracting individuals from Soviet territories to facilitating assassinations. On November 18, 1953, 10 scientists decided that understanding LSD's full potential required experiments on subjects unaware of being dosed. The extreme secrecy of MK-Ultra even obscured its true purpose for many participants and led to the destruction of key documents in 1973 by CIA Director Richard Helms, hampering later investigative efforts. The public unveiling of MK-Ultra was a gradual and startling revelation of CIA overreach and inadequate supervision. Inquiries by the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission in the 1970s exposed its disturbing tactics, leading to hearings, demand for accountability, and stricter checks on intelligence activities. MK-Ultra is a grim benchmark of Cold War intelligence excesses, warning of the dangers of unchecked power. Its story emphasizes the need for ethical guidelines, government openness, and safeguarding personal liberties to prevent power abuse. The project stands as a grim reminder that national security tools and knowledge must never compromise the foundational principles of the nation. Operation Northwoods, USA. Operation Northwoods stands as a chilling proposition in U.S. military history, where ethical boundaries were tested in the theater of Cold War politics. In the early 1960s, the U.S. Department of Defense and Joint Chiefs of Staff drafted a proposal for false flag operations to justify a military intervention in Cuba. The intent was to create a persuasive pretext for war by fabricating acts of terror and blaming them on Cuba. The 1962 plan proposed alarming measures, staged terrorist attacks on U.S. soil, hijackings, and even simulated aircraft bombings. It envisioned a campaign of deception, including a fake communist Cuban terror campaign in American cities, designed to sway public opinion and international support against the Castro regime. This strategy aimed to manipulate perception to secure backings for an aggressive stance against Cuba's communist government. These revelations, which remained secret until 1997, underscored the moral quandaries presented by such covert operations. Operation Northwoods contemplated sacrificing innocent lives and undermining American principles to counter the perceived Cuban threat. It demonstrated how fear could potentially drive U.S. policy to the brink of sacrificing its own ethical standards. However, President John F. Kennedy's rejection of the plan affirmed the nation's commitment to moral conduct, preventing a potentially catastrophic abuse of power. Kennedy's decision reinforced the necessities for a government's action to reflect its foundational values. The Operation Northwoods document now serves as a sobering reminder of the importance of maintaining moral integrity in national defense strategies. We've walked through the secrets of power and authority to bring to light 5 of the most haunting government projects. As we wrap up, remember, these stories are just a glimpse of what's hidden, a tiny look behind the scenes of government actions. What other secrets are kept away in confidential files? We can only wonder. Dig on these stories and stay ready to dig deeper into the mysteries that wait in the dark. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated whenever I upload a new video. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comment sections below.